कृपाप्रदायिने गौरकथा धामदाय नगरग्रामतारिणे नमः ॐ विष्णुपदाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामी नितिनामिने नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासदि गौरभक्तवृंद हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे. I am very happy to be with all of you here today, and the subject matter that is there is how should we read Bhagavad Gita. So it's going to be a structured presentation in the sense that I would pick up one theme and then there would be some themes within that one theme. Does any one of you have any problem hearing me? Are you, or is the connection all right? Okay, thank you very much. So I'm right now seeing 32, including me, we all are here with a singular purpose to try and see if we can gain something out of this book called Bhagavad Gita. Last time, Amoglila Prabhu must have told you about, why should you read. And now that you are aware that you can raise your consciousness, Bhagavad Gita can make you fearless, and so on and so forth. Once you know what is the goal, then you also must know how to reach to that goal. And that's why I'm here. So, first thing about how to read Bhagavad Gita is, let's go a couple of steps back and look at how do we know. That particular branch is called epistemology, where we study how do we know. And in order to know something broadly, there are three ways we know a thing. So one is called pratyaksha, second is called anuman, and third is called shabda. So pratyaksha is direct, and therefore pratyaksha is verifiable. How does it? How do we understand that? So look at, you know, uh, when the wind is blowing and you feel something touching your skin, you can verify it. There is a particular type of fragrance which you can verify. There's a particular type of tune which you can verify. By looking at someone, you can verify. So this is direct perception, and this is how we gain knowledge. So this is one way of knowing the world around us. If you look closely at your own body, our five senses are bahirmukhi. Bahirmukhi means they are externally oriented. So this ear is popping a little out in order to receive the frequencies and then supply it to the region of the mind. The same holds true for the nostrils as well. It is popped out and opened up in order to inhale various types of aromas and fill these smells and then make sense out of it. The same thing for the sockets of these eyes. So they open up and then we make sense of the world around us. Then we open our mouth and the tongue is out there, and therefore, we enjoy speaking and eating or other way around. And then lastly is our skin, which has unlimited pores through which it experiences heat and cold, as well as it experiences softness and harshness and toughness and all those things. Now, the information is being supplied so you can verify it. I know, I have seen it. I know because I have heard it. That's how we talk generally. 99.99% of the knowledge that all of us possess is born out of direct perception, which is called pratyaksha pramana. Praman means proof, pratyaksha means direct. So how do we know? We know via this route. Then there is another route which is called the route of inference. That's called anumana pramana. So then there can be many branches within that where you can compare a thing, and arrive at a particular inference, or you can deduce that, okay, if this is how it is working, then after this step this should be the output. So then within our day to day working also, like by looking at the symptoms of a patient, the doctor ascertains that he must be suffering from this disease. That's anuman praman. So we know like that. And then things like forecasting, predictions, all of these are largely born out of praman of anuman, which means proof of inference. And how does that work? That works basis certain pattern. In the past, a thing has evolved over the time and manifested basis this root. So that's praman, anuman. Now, the third category, which majority of us unknowingly do, but knowingly we don't acknowledge. What it means is it's called Shabda Praman, which means accepting something by the virtue of authority. Now go back to your school days when you were young, and whatever book was given to you, you would never question that book. That book remained sacrosanct to you, because had that not been the case, you would have never learned anything. We don't question our textbooks. We read them, and then we experience what is being mentioned over there in our laboratories, in the outer environment and surroundings. So the social studies, and therefore the concomitant or corresponding social behavior, and then it verifies, oh yes, I have read that and I followed this instruction, so therefore I can see that this is happening now. This is called Shabda Praman. So we know things via, I'm so sorry for this. We know things via these three routes: direct perception, inferences, and via authority. Bhagavad Gita falls under the category of third Praman, which is the Shabda Praman. It is an authoritative book. What does that mean? It cannot be read and claimed that, okay, no, I would get a direct proof of, God exists, or I can get a proof that, I can infer that God exists. Nothing like that. You have to accept what is being stated as it is. The current modern mindset is very typical. So whenever they are asked to take something at face value, they doubt. And now we are entering into our class. This is this was just the background is of how do we know something. Now we are entering into the class with Shabda Praman, is how you know Bhagavad Gita. And the first obstacle in Shabda Praman, reading Bhagavad Gita, is doubt. D-O-U-B-T, doubt. Now, the word doubt doesn't mean that it's only a one type. It has its genesis in various types of reasons. The first reason is we doubt because we think we may get exploited. So we don't experiment. Oh, no, no. You open Bhagavad Gita and then Krishna says, surrender unto me. It can't happen like that. How do I know I can trust you? So I won't take a plunge. So people, stand at the bank and just pause and wait and look at the ocean and say, oh, it must be, this deep, or maybe this deep, or maybe 10 elephants worth height. Like that, they keep speculating. These people never experience ocean. They just estimate basis their current perceptions. So how do you read Bhagavad Gita? First is you must remove the doubt. And first doubt, as I said, is that you may get exploited. There are other examples also of the same thing. Religion, unfortunately, has got a huge hit as far as its image is concerned, particularly in recent history of last 5 centuries. It has been held responsible for maximum carnage. Most of the Middle East countries, and it's not that who is at fault. The fact is that whether it is church versus state, or whether it is, Islamic clergy versus their governments, or nation versus nation, where the underlying reality is that it's a religious war. So what happened is that the educated urbanites, they distanced themselves. They said, no, 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 we can't. I mean, forget about religion. I have no religion. No religion. I'm secular. I'm not towards anyone. The symptom is called throwing the baby out with the bathwater. You have to remove cataract from the eye for the eye to see properly. You don't remove the eye itself. So even if religion has errors, we have to put aside the errors and approach or access religion. We altogether cannot shun it. And why we can't do it, you heard it last week. Why you should read Bhagavad Gita. Now, in this one, the fear of exploitation, that I may get cheated. Oh no, no, if I read, Shankara Bhashya, then I would just develop a particular type, and then mass religious culture would trap me in, and institutionalization would come into the picture, and I would be, no, I don't want that. My individuality would be lost in that. Such thoughts pop up in our heads, and thus we can't access with a candid and open mindedness towards this scripture. That's a doubt of, what if I, or doubt or fear of getting exploited. You don't want to do that. So we then approach Bhagavad Gita selectively. You must know one thing: if transformation has to take place, then you have to die. The current you can't be the seer and at the same time undergo a transformation. Take a simple example of, say, Radio Mirchi here in Delhi, 98.3. That's the frequency at which it is set. Now, if you want to move from here to Radio 1, then you have to leave Radio Mirchi. Then you go to 102 point whatever that is. You can't be at both the places at the same time. So know for sure that when you would access this Brahma Vidya called Bhagavad Gita, then you will be transformed. And if you doubt or if you hesitate that no, I'm better off in my current comfort zone, then you can't access a higher reality and the subsequent unlimited joy which is contained in it. So, my request is that access Bhagavad Gita with zero doubt. On record, I can say that you will not be exploited. You will not be exploited. Because open this book and show me one verse out of 700 verses where you hear the word Hindu, Muslim, Sikh, Isai, whatever, any religion. No, none. It does not say India in the way we understand it. It says Bharat Varsha, which means a place where civilized people stay, Aryavrata. And that opens it to not even the 8 billion humans who are inhabiting this planet. It extends way beyond that. It's a knowledge which concerns every part of every living entity's life. So you will not be exploited, provided you understand it the way it is being said. If you have a certain angle of vision with which you start interpreting, then no. Then you will have biased understanding of Bhagavad Gita. So no doubt, please. So Krishna also knows. So ultimately, in the towards the end, 18th chapter, he would tell Arjun, Sarvadharman parityajyam mama ekam sharanam vraja. Aham tvam sarva papebhyo mokshashyami ma shuchah. It translates loosely in Hindi or in English as Sarvadharman parityajyam. Give up all varieties of religion. We have the routine understanding of religion as Hindu religion, Muslim religion. No, your religion as a father, your religion as a mother, or as a student, or as a business person, or as an employee, all of these are also your religions, and therefore you have certain responsibility attached to that religion. If there is no child, you don't have a child, then you don't have the religion of being a mother or a father or a parent for that matter. So that is the understanding of the word religion. And then you must also know that, take an example of salt, or take an example of sugar. Now you remove sweetness from sugar, then there is no sugar. So sweetness is sugar's dharma, religion. Religion is that essential quality of a thing or a person whose absence rendered that thing or a person useless. So if you remove sweetness, there is no existence of sugar. If there are no children, there is no existence of a parent. And Krishna says, Sarvadharman parityajyam, give up all varieties of religion. Mam ekam sharanam vraja, take exclusively my shelter. Aham tvam sarva papebhyo, I will take away sinful reactions of all your previous activities. Mokshashyami, I will deliver you. Now, with such tall, lofty claims, Krishna adds two words, Ma Shucha. He says, don't fear, don't doubt, I will do it. This is such a personal conversation taking place between a spiritual master called Sri Krishna and a disciple called Arjun. But even then he says, Ma Shucha, don't doubt. So, my dear souls who have embodied various types of skins, various titles, designations in terms of, whether a whether an office goer or a coder or what have you, do not doubt. It's the language. It's a song of God. Krishna personally resides in it. Therefore, he claims in the chapter 18 towards the end, he says, whoever reads this conversation of ours, O Arjun, he or she would worship us via their intelligence. So, reading this Bhagavad Gita means you are worshipping Krishna with your intelligence. So, who is this Krishna? One who is the father of Jesus, one who is the Allah of Muslims, is the same Krishna. There is no difference. As long as you know that there is one singular reality, and as long as you know that God is a person, there is no difference between the father of Jesus, between Allah or Krishna. The one and the same thing. Just a nomenclature differs. How does the nomenclature differ? Your child may call you Papa, but in your office you are addressed by some other name, and your wife might be calling you by some other name. and friends maybe by some other name, but you, the very personality, do not change. Via multiple functionalities, people identify you, but you remain same. So when the Lord says that, you know, this conversation, one who reads this conversation or hears this conversation, he is worshipping me. Then he is worshipping God, the one singular reality. So, how to read Bhagavad Gita? One, without doubt. Go ahead, take a plunge. You won't be cheated. This assurance is being given to you, not by me, but the Lord Himself. He says, Ma Shucha, don't fear, don't doubt. I will do it. The second thing is, after this thing of doubt, we move to the next point, which is having a challenging mindset when you read Bhagavad Gita. The fundamental principle is don't question Bhagavad Gita. Ask questions to Bhagavad Gita. Like you don't question the textbook, but then still you have questions to ask within a classroom. So don't question Bhagavad Gita. It's us who are not understanding. That's one thing. That's all right. That's acceptable. But what Krishna is saying is wrong is too much of a high headedness at your end. I mean, the tiniest, the tiny creature, which is our brain and us, is out there to fathom the ultimate reality and claiming that God is wrong. That's too much ignorance. So while I'm saying you take a plunge, the second requirement is don't read it with a challenging mindset. So Krishna says in fourth chapter, Tat vidhi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya. Arjun, go to the spiritual master. Surrender unto him. Offer obeisances, pranipatena. Render service to him. Sevaya, pariprashnen, and then inquire from him. You have all the right to inquire that how do I reconcile this statement with this statement? Yes, you have the right to answer, question those things. But when you start coming up with challenging mindset, you say, this is not possible. I think it was 2012, I was launching Speaking Tree weekly newspaper, and Narayani Ganeshan, she was the editor for Speaking Tree. Narayani is the daughter of Gemini Ganeshan, Rekha's half sister. So I knew that though she is an editor, but her level of knowledge is skewed. So I asked her once, I said, Krishna says that, way back, he gave this knowledge to the king of Sun planet, and the name of that king was Vivasvana. So I said, Narayani, how should one understand this? And she said, well, it's all just symbolic that this knowledge has existed. But the other information about Vivaswan and Sun planet and king of the Sun planet, this is just a narrative. It's not real. Just because it did not match with your current perception, you become selective in understanding Bhagavad Gita. That's a mistake. Bhagavad Gita is not partly correct, partly incorrect. It doesn't work like that. From verse number 1 to verse number 700, every verse is immaculate. It makes complete sense. So you cannot be selective in it. If Krishna says there is a sun planet, okay, then Krishna says there is a king of that planet. And the king, if the king is there, then the subjects of the king would also be there. And that king has a name, which means that he's a person. So there is a limited understanding that the sun rays, spread all across, and each one of us can perceive the sun rays, and therefore we can claim we know sun. Partly true. Then comes the scientific knowledge. Okay, it's a hydrogen, helium fusion, this, that, all of those things. Yes, better understanding of sun planet. But beyond that are the people who live there whose bodies are made of fire. And we say, no, 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 no. Now it's too far fetched. Why? You live on this planet made of earth. Majority of your body is water and earth, and that's okay with you because it fits into your logical framework. But to accept that sun planet can have living entities like us and they can have a life out there, so this is Shabda Praman. You must accept it the way it is stated. It is a mal. A mal means there is no contamination in Bhagavad Gita. I'm sorry if I'm coming across as a die-hard Bhagavad Gita freak, but I'm not die-hard Bhagavad Gita freak. I believe in Shabda Praman because I have realized a part of it. By following those instructions, that reality has manifested itself before me. So I speak on the strength of my realization that yes, there is no need of any subjective interpretation of those verses. They are 100% true. The day we become qualified to implement, that concomitant reality would pop up or would manifest before us. Then you also would be able to say, oh, I am living in this body right now. On your birthday, you would be able to say, I am eternal, but this body in which I am residing is 43 years old. I am always okay, but the body is withering. This distinction gradually would come to you when you are very nicely aligned with the message of Krishna. So, first is do not doubt. Second is don't keep any subjective interpretations. Third, don't challenge. Tadvidi pranipaten pariprashnen sevaya. You may have questions, but don't question. You ask your questions of reconciliation. How do I understand it? That's absolutely valid. Another thing is, most of you would hate the idea of hierarchy. Intuitively and implicitly, you agree with the idea of hierarchy. There was a time when they would say cabinless offices, whether it is, the manager or the associate or the developer, whoever, everybody just on the same floor. And even the manager has to get up and get his own mug of coffee and things like that. That was our idea. That is our idea of equality. Dear pious souls, Krishna doesn't hesitate in calling a spade a spade. And therefore, there would be some verses in Bhagavad Gita which would hurt you. Because he's very straightforward, he's candid. And sometimes he may come across as preposterous. He would come across as full of ego. But just know one thing, this is a factual description of Krishna. If Amitabh Bachchan is 6 feet high and if he says, I'm 6 feet high, he's not boasting. It's a factual description. So if Krishna says, Aham Sarvasva Prabhava, everything emanates from me, everything depends upon me, then don't let your ego come in between. And then otherwise you will not be able to access the marma, the core part, not even crux. Crux is not a right expression here. The essence, that's the right word. You won't be able to access the essence of Bhagavad Gita. So I'm requesting all of you that when you read it, do not challenge it. The inner essence would be lost. That also brings us to one more point. When you look at this timeless piece of scripture, there would be many verses, many of them, where Krishna would rebuke Arjun, and you will feel that I'm being insulted. My only request is feel happy about it. Out of love for every living entity, be that an ant or Brahma, the seed giving Father, Sri Hari, is course correcting us. Accept it wholeheartedly, because he's doing that for our benefit. So when he's candid, he's outspoken, he's upfront, then the ego thing would be there. When his own glories would be sung, then also the ego aspect would be there. That's why pranipaten, when you open the book, bow down. You may say, oh, underlying reality of everything, I don't know who you are. Rather, in fact, I don't even know who I am. But your words are there. I'm going to access them. Please bless me. Way beyond the realm of logic is the realm of mercy. Mercy means you are not qualified to get that, but somebody else who had it gives it to you because he or she feels compassionate upon you. This is Krishna's mercy upon us. The moment we say, use the word mercy, people say, oh, I don't need it. I'm self made. We all need it. Jesus said, meek and humble rule the kingdom of Lord. We all need it. Carrying ego is the biggest burden in life. We wish we could just drop it off. On our knees, hands up. Not because we have committed any mistake. No, no, not like that. Because we belong to, Krishna says, Mame Vamsho Jivaloke Jiva Bhuta Sanatana. You all are my part and parcel. Mamev Amsho, my part. Jiva Bhuta Sanatan, you are eternal. Mana Shasthani Indriyani Prakriti Sthani Karshati. But because of mind and five senses, you all are constantly struggling in this place. Then he says, Janma Mrityu Jara Vyadhi Dukh Dosh Anudarshanam. In this place, there is definite birth, definite death, old age, and disease. And there is no solution. Janma Mrityu Jara Vyadhi. Dukh Dosh Anudarshanam. One who can see fault in these four things, he's an intelligent person. Advancement of material civilization in terms of like this particular Google Meet platform, which is being used by us right now, is a great thing. But the four fundamental problems of life, they cannot be avoided. We all have to face it. So how to access? You have, in order to access, you have to become humble. You have to accept those candid expressions of Krishna. Let me show you a glimpse, and that'll make you understand. Prabhu, uh, can I use the screen, please?
Please, yes.
Okay, because I exclusively use Zoom. So where do I go to share the screen?
So in the bottom panel that you have, the
Uh-huh.
third option from the right, near the menu. Like there's an and call button. Then close to that there's a menu,
And then,
and then it's the present now.
okay. Oh, it's not allowing me to share.
Let me.
Do you need to make me? I'm sorry for my.
No worries, no worries.
Or maybe what I can do is, it's absolutely all right because I just have to
You
read.
should be able to do it now. Could you please confirm once?
Sure. No, no issues. I would just simply read the stuff that I want to read out to the devotees here. Just a
Okay.
second. So I was referring to the aspect of, how candid Krishna is, and sometimes how we may feel about it when we read it. So 18th chapter, verse number 55. Just a second. Yeah, so when he says on verse number 55, I'm just reading it verbatim. One can understand me. Look at our good fortune that the supreme truth is revealing itself to us. And Krishna says, one can understand me as I am, as the supreme personality of Godhead, only by devotional service. And when one is in full consciousness of me, by such devotion, he can enter into the kingdom of God. Next verse. Though engaged in all kinds of activities, my pure devotee, under my protection, reaches the eternal and imperishable abode by my grace. Now, these words are very, very powerful. By my grace. He's not saying by his effort or by her effort. Mat prasadat tarishyasi. By my grace. And when we take on everything upon ourselves, that I'm the one who's doing it, ahankar, vimudatma, karta, aham iti manyate. Due to ignorance, the stupid soul considers itself as the doer. Prakratet kriyamanani gune karmani sarvashah. Whatever is happening because of the three modes of material nature, Arjun. But due to ignorance, the soul considers itself as the doer. If you look at the next verse, in all activities, the claim is, in all activities, just depend upon me and work always under my protection. In such devotional service, be fully conscious of me. Then he claims, if you become conscious of me, you will pass over all the obstacles of conditional life by my grace. However, if you do not work in such consciousness, but act through false ego, not hearing me, you will be lost. And these are very, in certain sense, Krishna appears full of himself, which is the wrong way to interpret it. He's saying, if you become conscious of me, you will pass over all the obstacles of conditioned life. He is not saying there will be no obstacle. He's saying you will pass over. There is a difference between the two. So, people who think that due to spirituality, their problems will be resolved, you are mistaken. You will pass over all the obstacles. And how do you get that? By my grace. Then in the verse 59, he says, if you don't act according to my direction and do not fight, then you will be falsely directed by your nature. You will have to be engaged in warfare. So sorry for this. I read these verses to give you an example that this is what you are going to come across. When somebody says, "Oh, by my grace you will get it," then your ego would say, "No, no, hang in there. I can do it myself. I'm self made, Mr. Bond." As they say, as the saying goes, even if you win the rat race, the irony of life is that you remain a rat, you know. So, similarly, if you think that you can somehow or other get access to spirituality without a favor of a realized soul, I'm sorry, but it doesn't happen. Therefore, Krishna says, out of false ego, if you don't follow me, you will be finished. What does that mean? Not that he would be killed. Finished means your consciousness would never access me. And therefore, you will have to continuously take birth and death. You'll have to accept that. There is another aspect there are two more actually, which I wish to highlight to you. Consistency is very crucial in accessing Bhagavad Gita. So, whenever you read it, number one, read in an orderly fashion. Don't abruptly pick out a verse and read it and say, I read Bhagavad Gita. Read it in an orderly fashion, chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3, chapter 4. Then do it consistently. You take some time out and then say, okay, there are 600 pages broadly. Even if you just read 5 pages in 4 months, like we used to read those comic strips in newspapers earlier, just a little part every day. But it would be so much more fulfilling. Don't think that by going through 40 pages, oh, I'm done, I'm just 560 pages less, and then 100 pages done, and it's not a novel. You have to bow down to it, pray that the mercy falls upon you, and then you will be growing out of it. And the one who is entering and the one who would exit would be completely different personalities. So devotionally rich, endowed with so much divine understanding. Why? Because you knew how to access Bhagavad Gita without doubt, without fear, without any subjective interpretation, reading it systematically and reading it in an orderly fashion, not haphazardly. Then there is another symptom, which is called greed. There are many enthusiasts who think they have achieved everything in life by working hard. Then say, no, 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 not only hard, working smart. These apparatus are great for material achievements. They don't work on that side. Because when you work with these instruments, then you conquer something. You can't conquer reality, you can't conquer God. Out of his own sweet will, he reveals himself to you. That's that's the reason I'm repeating the word humility. That's the reason I'm again and again saying you will not be exploited. A father doesn't exploit a child. This knowledge does not, very, very important section of the session. This knowledge will give you many incidental perks. And if you get stuck there, even then you will not access Bhagavad Gita. This is in fashion these days. We are so eccentric, selfish creatures that we take out Bhagavad Gita to enhance our productivity at workplace. Prabhuji, I get stressed out. How do I not get stressed out? And Prabhu, I feel I get angry very soon. I just want to, calm down, and then you read Bhagavad Gita selectively. Where are those verses where Krishna is talking about, how to remain peaceful, tranquil, this, that? These are all incidental benefits. Don't fall for them, because even if you remain free of anger, the death will still come. The accidents will still happen. The old age will still come. There's no solution. Till the time we don't realize that we are not these bodies, we are the ones who are inside the body. And basis our desires, we are constantly forced to change bodies. And this cycle is of birth and death is called samsara. There is this samsara is a cycle, and one needs to step out of this cycle. So five things Bhagavad Gita tell you. Who are you? Who is God? What is kala, time? What is karma? And what is nature, prakriti? You may start, you know, being able to perform austerities nicely. That's fine. That's okay. No issues. You may develop more willpower, more perseverance, better grip on yourself, and then you may get quicker promotions, more acceptance in society. But that's not the result of reading Bhagavad Gita. You read Bhagavad Gita to know who you are. Is that an ordinary question? And the answer lies out there. Therefore, I'm saying that that's a profound question, most profound question. Then who God is? What is our relationship? Why am I here? Please, dear devotees, fall for those things, not for these tidbits.
Prabhuji, since
Open the floor. Yeah, I'm sorry, Prabhu. I'm done with the list of how to access Bhagavad Gita or how do I read Bhagavad Gita. Now, kindly ask questions if you have any.
thank you, Prabhuji. We had a few incoming questions, so we were hoping if a few of those could be addressed.
Please.
I'll just read out the questions to you. The first one was that we often tell people to follow the heart, but what actually controls the heart? Is it the intelligence or the brain? I think the background here is in the last week we discussed how Bhagavad Gita enhances your intelligence so you can control the whimsicalities of your brain. So the question is, when we talk about following your heart, what does that actually imply?
The Hridaya Akash, the sky region of heart, you know, is a region where two different types of desires live. Desires born out of three modes of material nature and desires born out of divine nature. As long as desires born out of sattvic, tamasic, and rajasic tendencies reside, all the thoughts that come, okay, you want to understand the subtle body structure. I'll just take 2 minutes. That would give a proper answer to it. Here in the region of heart is something called chitta. You may draw this, no problem. In the region of the heart is a place called chitta. Chitta is called the storehouse of tendencies. All your impressions in every fraction of a second that you're going through, like a machine, it just gets imprinted there. So that's one thing. They can be broadly classified into three categories: mode of goodness, mode of ignorance, and mode of passion. So people who love to sleep for very long hours, who procrastinate virtually everything in their life, who only daydream, these are the people who suffer from mode of ignorance. So the voice from their heart would be, keep sleeping, darling. And they may feel genuine about it, but it's a robotic thing. It's because the impressions in your heart are popping up, and they are popping up and reaching here in the middle of your two eyebrows. This is the region of mind. Mind is different from heart. Learn to segregate. There are three functions of mind: thinking, feeling, willing. You think of a rasgulla, you get a white ball pictured in your head, and you feel that sweetness is there, and that aroma is there, and then you pick up the purse and go to the sweet shop. So thinking, feeling, willing means now I want to eat it. This happens in the region of mind. Behind the mind is a discriminating authority which is called intelligence. Like a child can anytime go and put his finger into a socket. That's mind, because the child has no knowledge. The moment it gets the electricity shock, next time the intelligence says we will not do this. So intelligence discriminate between what is right and what is wrong. But if the intelligence sources information from scriptures, Shabda Praman, then it becomes spiritual intelligence. When it sources information from Pratyaksha and Anuman Praman, then it is material intelligence. Material intelligence sometimes would be right, sometimes would be wrong. Spiritual intelligence doesn't go wrong. In the mode of passion, a person wants to achieve a lot, do a lot of stuff, eats, food which is made out of spices, and he's very, very passionate, restless, and therefore is, full of diseases in his body, particularly vata, which means air keeps running into him. He's very restless, and that's why you give any task to him, he's like agitated, perturbed. Apparently he may look relaxed. So when you draw that from the region of the heart, the impressions pop up and they surface here on the mind. Then the intelligence discriminates. Can we afford it? Can't we afford it? Or we can't afford it? Then accordingly the decision is taken. So brain in itself is an organ, but intelligence is a subtle body part which cannot be seen. It can be experienced though, like oxygen. So brain and intelligence are also not same thing. Brain is the hardware of that whole thing. Intelligence is the software of that thing. Mind and heart are not the same thing. And once we clean the region of heart and these three modes stop existing, only pure goodness exists, then qualities such as compassion, generosity, perseverance, austerity, suffering for others, they pop up. So you have to purify yourself. There is nothing called coming from the my heart. It's my inner voice, and so on and so forth. You have to cleanse the dirt of the heart. Once that happens, then there is a profuse light out there, which is full of spiritual qualities. Then the mind gets spiritualized, the intelligence gets spiritualized, and therefore your whole existence becomes spiritualized. So this is how you should understand it. Next question, Prabhu.
Uh, Thank you, Prabhuji. I just wanted to ask you if you have a few extra minutes. Look, although the booking was on like the meeting, we have only booked till 11. If people who would like to ask any live questions and can
You
stay, would you
extend
do
it
it?
to 10 minutes maximum. So 11:10, I would wrap up.
Okay, I'll just ask the next question. Those who would like to ask any live questions, please feel free to unmute yourself and go ahead. The next one that we had was that an individual had asked that what made you give up your leadership position in the media and news, and devote yourself to the spiritual path and join ISKCON?
It is not about joining ISKCON actually. It is about, it's a path of surrender. It may appear a lot to you, it appears minuscule to me. What I have given up are just external designations. I continue to suffer from lust, greed, envy, so on and so forth. And I have a lot to give up. You all please bless me that I can do so on the strength of mercy of Vaishnavas and pious souls like you. Because the motivation of giving up everything was my spiritual master's instruction. When he said, now you help us develop this Vedic planetarium, then it was very easy for me to just put aside that. And I'm also letting you know that both you and me.
I think we lost you. Looks like a power cut, yes. So what we can do is, if people would like to drop off, since we're already over time, please feel free to do so. If there are any more notes from beyond this point, we'll share it in the summaries as well. Hey, Kiran, hi.
Sorry, am I audible to you?
You're audible, Prabhuji, but your voice is breaking because I think the internet slowed down. Maybe
Yeah,
turning
yeah.
off the video
I
would
should be
help
okay.
with the audio part.
Sure, sure. Is this okay now? Can you hear me, Prabhu?
Yeah, Prabhuji, we can hear you now.
I'm very sorry, because here we just suddenly lost electricity, and then, you know, nonetheless,
No
I
way.
was just, what was the question? Yeah, so the devotee, whoever had asked me this question about, I did it on the instruction of spiritual master, and that was my singular motivation. There are only 7 seekers left on the call now. So I think what we can do is we can wrap up this session and take the remaining questions maybe next week. I just want to announce and put it in email. From next week, we're doing 18-week Gita course, which will be covering 18 chapters from chapter 1 till chapter 18. Every week, one chapter would be
Right.
covered. Even if somebody just attends, can you hear me, Prabhu?
Yeah, your
Prabhuji,
voice
your
is
voice.
breaking.
Right. Uh,
Maybe maybe
Please,
if
Kiran,
you
go ahead.
maybe I can just yeah, your voice is breaking. So I think what Prabhuji is trying to
We
say yeah,
can,
there's
yeah,
yeah, so there is the 18 weeks course. I think you all would have received an email from one of the volunteers. Huge thanks to them. Without them, it could have not happened, all of the arrangements. So you should have gotten an email. And so please feel free to just join. It would be on your calendar. And in case there are folks who have not signed up, just reach out to Abhimanyu or me here, and we're happy to get you on board with this journey. So yeah, thank you so much for joining. Yes, Sharath, please go ahead, and quickly we'll just take this last question.
Yeah, sorry, just want to add that it was there on the calendar before the series, but now it's no longer there on Friday mornings.
Yeah, let me check,
All right,
Sharath.
thank
I'll get
you.
back to you. Yeah. Abhishek also, Abhishek Rathi and Sharath. We'll just check that. Just shoot me a quick email in case. But I think just give us time till the end of the day today, and I think
We'll
it
add
should be
the
clear.
invites to the calendar, the repeating, like the repeating invites for every week. We'll add that to the calendar today itself.
Okay, perfect. Yeah. So Abhishek, you are in charge of Friday 10 a.m., right?
Yeah, I'm doing that. Okay.
Okay. So yeah, you should get it, Sharath and Abhishek. Thanks for raising that. Yeah, go ahead, Prabhuji.
Okay, thank you, everyone. I think from my side, we are ready. Next week, first class would be there based on chapter 1. If you can come after reading, it would be great. But otherwise, forward to all of Friday AM next week. Yeah. Thank you, Mataji.
Prabhuji,
Thank
maybe
you
you
so
can
much,
send
Abhishek.
us the link from where. You
Yes,
can
I
send
will
us the
share
link
that link.
from where. Okay, all right. Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for joining. Bye.
Thank you everyone for joining. We'll share the link as well within the invite for the pre-read as well. Thank you.